Working on cars is always interesting. Sometimes it makes you use words that you wouldn't use in regular conversation. Today, I want to share 5 of my biggest mishaps or mistakes, things that have gone wrong while working on cars, so that you guys can laugh and learn from my pain. Also, feel free to leave a comment down below and share your automotive DIY horror stories. I think those will be funny, and I'm looking forward to reading those. So my first mishap has to do with my 1995 Pontiac Sunfire. It was the first car that I had in high school, and I needed to replace the spark plug wires. And I remember my dad specifically telling me, make sure that you take them out one at a time to replace them. That way you don't mess up the firing order. It was one of those older style cars that had the distributor cap, and the spark plug wires would just plug directly into that. And on this particular car, the distributor cap was like in between the engine and the firewall. It was really hard to see, but you kind of put your hand behind it and feel where the stuff was. And I remember I just gave it a really good yank, and of course all 4 wires popped out at the same time. They were like kind of overlapped, so just pulling on one made all 4 pop out. Now, I'm not sure what possessed me to do this job at work, like on my lunch break, and this is like in the days before smartphones, so I didn't really have a reference as to how to put the wires back in the right order. So it took much trial and error, just trying to plug them in, turn the car on, see if it runs right. And after a while I finally figured it out, but yeah, that was super annoying. So the next one is the great oil spill. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I dread doing oil changes. It's one of my least favorite maintenance things to do, and if it weren't for all the money that I'm saving by changing the oil myself, I would just gladly take the car to someone else to have them do it. But anyway, I remember a couple years ago changing the oil on the BMW, and it just went really smoothly. I remember this particular oil change was very clean. I hardly even got the gloves dirty, but as I'm pulling out of my parents' house to come home to the apartment, I just hear this really loud crunch. And what had happened is I had set the jugs of the used oil in front of my car so that I wouldn't forget him, but what actually happened is I ran him over, and just oil went all over the street. It was a huge mess. I had to make a trip to Walmart to get a thing of cat litter, and I spent like an hour trying to clean the oil up off the street. Really bad. So my next mishap has to do with not using a torque wrench. Now, torque wrenches are a crucial tool that you must use when you're working on cars. Every single nut and bolt on the car has a torque spec for a reason. Now, for years I've always just like hand tightened the oil filter, or in this case the oil filter cap, and it's never been a problem. But this time on the BMW, I guess I didn't tighten it enough, and like a half mile down the road, my low oil light comes on. I pull over, open the hood, and there's just oil spilling out everywhere. It's like all over the alternator, all over the belts. Just made a huge mess. So lesson learned, always use a torque wrench, and if you don't already own one, I will link one down below in the description. But yeah, always important to use that. And in case you're wondering, in case you have a BMW, the torque spec is actually printed on top of the oil filter cap. Really convenient, so you always know what it is. So the next one was not putting the jack in the right spot when I was jacking up the BMW. By far the scariest thing that's ever happened to me while working on a car. I was in a hurry, which was really stupid of me. I put the jack under the car, just did a quick glance. It looked like it was in the right place. As I'm jacking it up, I got it maybe like 8 inches off the ground, and I just hear boom, and the car just drops to the floor. So essentially what happened was I was lifting the car up by that like really thin plastic shroud. I'm surprised it even got that high off the ground, but anyway, the jack went right through and destroyed the radiator fan. Now thankfully that's all it was. It didn't hit the engine or the belts or any of the hoses, but the fan was completely destroyed. I actually did a video replacing it. I think that was like not last winter, but the previous winter. But yeah, that was really crazy. So lesson learned, always double check and triple check that your jack is actually on the jacking point, and always use jack stands. So this last story isn't so much about working on cars, but still a crazy car story from my teenage years. Basically, my 95 Sunfire, it was like metallic pink when I bought it, and I couldn't afford to get a professional paint job, so I was just trying to like spray paint it lime green with like spray paint. So the whole summer I had these cans of paint like rolling around my back seat. I go to pick up one of my friends from high school, a bigger guy. He gets in the car, kind of plops down on the seat, and we just hear this really faint hissing sound like tss, and I'm like, what is that noise? I look up in the rearview mirror. The whole back of my car is just this fog of lime green spray paint. So my instinct, my reflex reaction was to grab the paint. I threw it out the window. High school parking lot, it's all junker cars. Not that that makes it any better, but still, I tossed it out the window, and as the can is rolling down the parking lot, the side of it split open and it sprayed right up the side of this other person's car. I felt horrible. I'm a good person, so I stuck around. This girl came out, and I explained what happened. I kind of told her, a way that I thought that she could get the paint off. As as long as she did it right away. And I also gave her my phone number, you know, just in case they couldn't get it off. I told her that I would pay to have it repainted. So the story gets even crazier. I didn't know this girl, but I had heard from one of her friends that that very night that happened, she went to a party and someone backed into her car and backed into that exact door. So I was off the hook for that one. But anyway, lesson learned, never store spray paint in your car. And even if you have to transport it from the store, keep it in like a plastic bag or a container so that something like that doesn't happen. But anyway, those are my 5 top mishaps while working on cars. Leave a comment down below. I want to hear your crazy car stories. So thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.